Okay, here we are with another version of Pot Talk TV, and I'm a bit naked here. I don't have Paula next to me, which makes me a little uneasy because I'm not really great in front of the camera and don't really like being in front of the camera. But I'm going to bring you up to date a little. We've just run a video of judges as criminals, which some of you people aren't going to see, but the people in Woodstock have just seen it. So I'm going to go on about the judges in Ulster County for a little while. We went to court again on the traffic pullover when me and Paula were arrested, and the police pulled us out of the car and arrested us illegally, and then searched our car and found a little marijuana. Well, they dropped it from a felony down to a misdemeanor, and then they dropped it down to a violation, and we just went to court on the violation. And we played the dashboard camera, and we pointed out to the judge all the illegal things that the police officer did. And he tried to cover for him, but it was kind of hard to cover for him when the video dashboard camera showed everything that he did. And we argued with the judge, and we played the tape back and forth. We kept him there for about three and a half hours, which they all kept looking at their watches and wanting to go, and we kept saying we want it played again because I want my day in court, and I want every minute that's allowed to me. And the longer, if everybody dragged them out in court and fought and fought and fought, they wouldn't be able to get as many people in court and run everybody over the coals and pick everybody's pockets, because that's what these commercial courts are about. The local politicians say we need money, and then they tell the police, we want you to go out and make more arrests. So they start giving out more tickets, and they start creeping in the woods to see if they can find some kids smoking a little pot so they can bust them. And I can't believe that you people out there in television land are just letting this all happen and accepting it. It's time for you people out there to take a stand. Anyway, the judge said in Hurley, he's going to review the tape, the dashboard camera, and in 30 days, he's going to give his opinion. Well, we believe that no matter what we showed constitutional law, we showed Supreme Court rulings, we argued every argument that we could find, all based on law and based on the Constitution, Supreme Court. And the judge said, well, I have this book, Rules of Civil Procedure for New York. Well, I told the judge, he swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of New York, yet he's still saying that the rules of civil procedure somehow override the Constitution and Supreme Court rulings. How he can do that, I don't really know. Well, I do know how he does it. He's just a tyrant, and he's going to rule how he wants because he's determined to find us guilty. Because if he doesn't find us guilty, then he's got to admit that the police officer acted in a criminal manner, and they're not going to do that. So he's going to find, more than likely, it'll really surprise me if he doesn't come back with a guilty verdict, and they're going to fine us. But the point I want to make to you people out there is right now, our courts in Ulster County, the judges, the prosecutors, cover for the police who act way beyond their legal authority. And they act beyond their legal authority because the politicians need money. Whenever the politicians need money, they say to the police, we need more arrests, So the courts are just about cash register, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. It's like every person that comes in, they see how much can I get out of this person, and they threaten you with more than what they should be threatening you with because they know that you'll go, I only got off with a fine and I didn't go to jail. And you'll pay the money, and they'll just keep picking your pockets. And the fines will keep going up until pretty soon you can't afford to pay the fines, and then they'll be jailing you because they make money off you in jail. And that's why they arrest all these young kids, because they know these young kids don't have the money and they can put him in jail, and it supports the whole prison system, which is just another money-making thing. It's time for the American people out there, especially you people in Ulster County, to start waking up, demanding that your politicians stop these police from overacting beyond their authority. And I think all you people in Woodstock, if you don't start complaining and start passing a petition around that you want these boxes off the back of these police cars that read everybody's license plate. They can ride by your driveway, and if you have guests, they know who your guests are by the license plate in your driveway. For all you people out there that might be doing little deals here and there, the police can ride by your house, and they're going to know who your connection is or who you're selling to. And there is no privacy when the police can spy on you on that level. So I would recommend, and I'm eventually going to pass around a petition, that we want those boxes off the police cars. And we want the police to stop creeping in the woods to try to find the young kids smoking pot. Most of the politicians in this town and the judges in this town and most of the adults in this town all smoke pot. So why are we busting the kids? Because it's about money. And why should these kids have to pay? And you know, when a young kid gets arrested for marijuana and it goes on his record, if he tries to go to college and ask for a student loan, he's going to be turned down. So now we've ruined that kid, any chance of that kid succeeding by getting a higher education. So it's time for people to wake up and start demanding change. If you don't hold the feet to the fire of the politicians, nothing's going to change. So I think all you people out in Woodstock and you people down in New York City should be talking to the politicians. Look, if you look in the poor neighborhoods down in New York City, in the ghettos or Harlem or all that, the police just keep coming in, frisk and search, and violate these kids' rights. But no one goes into court and say, well, the kids' rights have been violated. I mean, a few people do, but very few people. All the people in New York should be writing and saying, we want this stopped. You know, we don't want... And when you look at when the Wall Street people were out demonstrating, there were more police watching the demonstrators, spying on them, harassing them, than there were demonstrators. We live in a police state. And if you people out there don't start demanding the politicians to make a change and start voting these criminals out of office, any politician that's involved in spying on these kids that are protesting, we have a right to petition the government for redress of grievances. We have a right to freedom of assembly. Yet these kids who were doing the Wall Street protest were not allowed freedom of assembly, were harassed the whole time, were not allowed free speech, and people watched it on television. They watched the police beating people up, but how many people wrote in to the politicians and said, we demand this stop? Unless the American people wake up, we are already in a police state. And real soon, they're going to throw out the Constitution, they're going to throw out the Bill of Rights, and if they bring you into court, you're not going to have any argument. They're just going to say, the police arrested you, we brought you in here, you're guilty, you either go to jail or pay the fine, and pretty soon we are going to live in a complete dictatorship, and there is going to be no freedom in this country. America, wake up. Start getting involved. Now, you could say, oh, it's not my problem. The other guy, that hippie got busted, or that black person got busted. Well, you know what? They're going to come around to you. The banks have foreclosed on 13 million houses in America. That means there's 13 million families. That's the middle class getting clobbered. The middle class didn't speak up when they were putting it to the poor people, when they were putting it to the homeless. You didn't speak up, now you're under attack. And you know what? The upper middle class, excuse me, the upper middle class, who isn't saying everything because they think, oh, I'm fat, I got a bunch of money. Well, you're next. They're going to come after you and start taking your houses, start taking your cars, and you're going to be homeless. This is an assault by the World Bank, which is a foreign power, and our politicians are working with the foreign power, which makes it treason. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund control our Federal Reserve. And it's not our Federal Reserve, it's a private corporation. And that private corporation is dictating policy to the American politicians. And because they need so much money to run their campaigns, the banks and the big oil companies are supplying them with the money, so their loyalty longer to the American people. Their loyalty is to a foreign power that is attacking America economically. They're economically at war with the United States to destroy our way of life. And unless you people out there wake up, we are going to lose our constitutional form of republic. We're not a democracy. They keep saying democracy, democracy, democracy. Our founding fathers didn't set up a democracy. They set up a republic with a constitution that law is the law for all, from the president to the wino on the corner. And all can be held responsible under the Constitution. And unless you people wake up, it is being eroded by a foreign power. All the politicians that have signed on to working with the World Bank and bringing about the New World Order, which is a world government which will do away with our Constitution, our republic, all those politicians that are saying that and moving for that, they have and are committing treason against the Constitution. It's time for the American people. If we don't take a stand now, our children are going to be in a world of slavery, and they're going to say, you're in debt, therefore we want you to do this job and you have no choice. And they're going to have mass work projects, just like they did in Nazi Germany. They took all the Jews after they rounded them up, and they started working them till they worked them to death, and they gave them very little food. The food in this country, because of the economics being done by the World Bank, is going to keep going higher and higher and higher until you people out there can't afford food. And then they're going to say to you, well, if you take this chip, then you'll be able to get food, and we're gonna do away with the money, so you can't buy and sell stuff, or you can't trade with each other. You have to have this chip, and if we don't like your political stand, we'll turn off your chip, and you won't even be able to get food. You won't be able to go anywhere. You won't be able to travel, because if you show the chip, and the chip says you can't travel, they're not going to let you travel. This is just around the corner, people, unless you stand up now. It's time for all the American people locally to start making their politicians toe the line, to make their politicians stop. And first of all, the politicians control the police. So don't go out on the streets and think you're going to battle with the police. Go to your politicians and say, we want the police to act in a lawful manner. And I'm going to move on to the next case. I was driving, a lot of you people out there know I put sovereign plates and I got no license, and I was driving to assert my right to travel freely, which I have all the law. We've done shows on that, and we cited all the law that says you have a right to travel freely, and a right cannot be licensed and charged a fee for it. And that's been ruled on many, many times by the Supreme Court. And all these states that are making people, they say licensing is mandatory. Well, they're lying to you right there. And the reason they're lying to you is because when you sign that license, it's like signing a contract. Now you've given up your constitutional rights, and you've contracted with them to go by these other rules that they've made up that are unconstitutional. But because you've signed a contract, you're obligated to go along with these rules. And these rules mean that they can ticket you anytime you want if your seatbelt ain't hooked, if you got a taillight out, If you, they've made so many laws, I'd be here for hours trying to tell you all the laws they've made to pick your pockets. But I went to, originally to Woodstock. I thought I was going to go because I got my tickets here, but the two judges recused themselves. Then it got passed to Kingston, and I went before Judge Williams, who I put in paperwork, and he said the prosecutor was supposed to answer my paperwork, which the prosecutor, as usual, has not answered my paperwork. And when they don't answer your paperwork is supposed to stand as fact on the record since it's unrebutted. If I didn't rebut what they say, then they'd say, okay, Joe, well, the prosecutor said you're guilty, and you didn't say you're not guilty, therefore you agree and you're guilty. But if you put in paperwork saying that the prosecutor or the police have acted illegally, and the prosecutor doesn't answer your paperwork, well, then your paperwork is supposed to stand. But in these local courts here, the judges act as tyrants. They don't go by the law. They make it up however they want. And then they'll rant and rave and scream and turn blue in the face and try to make you scared. So you go, oh, shit, the judge is mad. I better not piss off the judge. And you accept it, and they fine you, and they pick your pocket. And it's because you've accepted it. I recommend to every one of you out there, don't take a plea to nothing. Fight them every step of the way, and learn law. The law is not hard. There's so many websites out there. You got Rod Class has great stuff. Constitution Man has great stuff. There's great stuff on Barefoot's website. There's so many of them. If you people out there, it's so easy to fill out the paperwork yourself and save all those lawyer fees. And if you do the paperwork yourself, you can actually make the prosecutor work. And then I've gone to court with so many of my friends who've gotten lawyers. And when they go into court, the lawyers kind of make a deal with the prosecutor, and they talk, and they don't. And then all my friends, when they come out of court, it's a standard thing. My friends say to the lawyer, why didn't you say this? Or why didn't you say that? Or why didn't you say this? Because the lawyer is part of the game. The lawyer needs the prosecutor, or he don't have a job. The lawyer needs the judge, or he don't have a job. The lawyer is not going to go in there and say, this law is unconstitutional and I want it thrown out. Lawyers just won't do that. You have to do that. You have to be what they call in law the belligerent claimant. You have to stand your ground and fight all the way. Fighting with the police is not the way to do it. The place to fight is in court. All you people out there need to start fighting in court, dragging these cases out. If everybody did what me and Paula and my son Jay have been doing, we've backed these courts up, their calendars. If everybody did that, they could not bring as many people as they bring to trial as they do right now. And the courts would have to stop what they're doing. And if more people called them on their illegal and challenged them and appealed them, the higher courts eventually are going to be bogged down, and the higher courts are going to have to start ruling, yes, the judges overstepped their bound, and the judges are going to have to stop acting like tyrants, and the judges are going to have to stop covering for the police when they act over the line. And it's a combination of taking them on in court and taking on the politicians. All you people out there, especially you people in Woodstock, you have voted in these people that are in town. Now, most of the politicians in this town, they get high. The judges in this town, they get high. Yet they're busting your kids, and they're busting you. They're taking children away from parents who smoke a joint. When are you people going to wake up and stand up and fight for our country? Our republic is at stake. If you people don't stand up, we are not going to... You go out on the 4th of July and you wave your flag and you think you're an American. You ain't squat. If you don't stand up and fight these people and demand change and stand up for our republic, wave your flag all you want, we are not in the country that you're waving the flag and believing you're in. You're being scammed. It's time to wake up, America. It's time to wake up, Woodstock. I would like to see it start here in Woodstock, because Woodstock is actually a pretty hip community, and most of you people out there know what I'm saying. You're just too lazy and too sheepish to take a stand. It's time to stop being sheep, or you're going to lose all the rights and freedoms that the Founding Fathers, and every time we've gone to war, all our veterans have fought for. How many veterans have died for your freedom? It's time for you to take a stand and stand up for your own country. Kennedy said, ask not what you can do for your country, ask what you can do for your ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Well, people, it's time out there for you to do something for your country. Take a stand, call your politicians, tell them we want the police to act in a legal manner. We want the police to stop sneaking up on kids, just trying to catch them with a joint. We want the courts to stop picking everybody's pocket. We went to now on traffic violation, which I was talking about before. I got off on a rant, which I usually do. We went for driving with my sovereign plates and no license plate. Eventually it went to Kingston. Kingston said that the judge said the prosecutor was going to answer my paperwork, which he didn't, and now they passed it to the Marbletown. Well, we went to Marbletown tonight because we thought our case was there, but actually it had been postponed. But it amazed me. Marbletown is the same as Ulster. All you people around here who know Ulster, Ulster is the traffic ticket capital of Ulster County. All the courts, that court there is specifically there. All the cops are out giving tickets. And when you go to Ulster County, Ulster Court, all they're going to do is fine you. And if you were drinking and driving, well, then they're going to put you in jail because they make more money off you in jail. And they're going to take your license and make it so you can't make a living. So if you people want to continue this, we went to Marbletown. I was amazed at the amount of people. I mean, there must have been 100 people there with all these cops, all who got tickets. Because when you drive through Marbletown, they have no other form of revenue. So since they have no other way to make money, how are they getting it? They're getting it by making more and more. They make the speed limit so it's 55 miles an hour, then they drop it down to 30, and the average person tends to go a little further into town before they realize, oh, I'm 30, and they got them waiting at the end of the town to catch you as you're coming in and give you your ticket. And it's just about the politicians need money, so the politicians tell the police we need to give more tickets. And politicians always need more money. They're always going to need more money. And what are they doing with the money that we're giving them? Can you really say what they're doing? All they're doing is buying more police cars to give more tickets to pick more people's pockets. You know, it's a big scam. It's just about collecting money. These are commercial courts. They're not real courts of law. And the judges rule however they want. And it's time for you people out there to take a stand. I have to do an hour show, and I've said pretty much everything that I'm trying to say here. I don't know what else to say. I really need you people to start becoming active. Learn the law. Don't take pleas in court. If your kid gets busted for pot, don't come down on the kid. Give him a hard time. Say, what the hell's wrong with you? Why are you smoking pot? You were smoking pot when you were a kid. So don't come down on your kids. Go to court and say, why the hell is my kid here? Why is this going on? In 5,000 years of marijuana use, of recorded history, no one has ever died from marijuana. In fact, medical evidence has proven that marijuana cures cancer, that the oil extracted from marijuana cures cancer, cures leukemia, cures so many diseases. Our government, the federal government, who says There's no they keep it in Schedule 1. They say there's no medical value for marijuana, yet our federal government has 9 patents on cannabinoids extracted from marijuana, including THC. So if they've patented for medical use marijuana, how can they keep it in Schedule 1 and tell everybody there's no medical value, therefore it's Schedule 1 and has no medical use and is a dangerous drug? Now, as far as a dangerous drug, they did in 1974, our federal government decided to do research. The DEA, and I forget the other, I wish Paula was here because she has a better memory than me. But the DEA I think the American Cancer Society paid the Virginia Medical College to do research they wanted to prove that marijuana caused brain cancer. Well, they injected rats, a lot of rats with brain cancer, and they started injecting them with pure THC. And they found that the THC attacked the brain cancers, and it only attacked the brain cancer cells, and it didn't attack or hurt the normal, healthy cells. But then when they found out that marijuana cures brain cancer and doesn't cause brain cancer, they come out, and first they hid all that research, and then they came out and said, scientific research shows that marijuana attacks brain cells. But what they didn't tell people was it attacked the cancerous brain cells, not the healthy cells. So they used that to scare everybody, to scare all the American people into thinking, oh, marijuana causes cancer, when our government knew that marijuana cures cancer. Now, they did this research in 1974, so they knew that pure THC cures brain cancer. How many little children have died or gone through terrible radiation or chemotherapy or brain operations when they knew that THC cures cancer? Now, they call me a criminal because I possess marijuana. But I ask you, if they knew that it cures cancer and hid that from the American people, who are the real criminals? I say the people in government who are lying to the American people and who are locking up people knowing that it does no harm, knowing that it's valuable for medicine, knowing that our economics, right now the World Bank is trying to destroy us economically. If marijuana was not made legal, but if they repealed the law that made it illegal, and it went back to the way it was before the law was ever made, farmers all over this country could be growing hemp for making ethanol. We could run all our cars. Henry Ford's cars, the early cars, all ran on alcohol made from hemp. Henry Ford had the largest hemp plantation in this country at that time and was producing alcohol to run his cars on. We could go back to that. And when you burn alcohol, it's clean on the environment, and our government is in the pockets of the oil industry, which is polluting our oceans, polluting our rivers, polluting everything, when we could have a clean source of energy and all our cars could run on hemp. And if you take and you mix alcohol with the hemp seed oil, they could run all the diesels, all the trucks on that. So that's just one form of energy that's being kept from us because of the World Bank, because they want to destroy the economic. Our farmers today could be producing crops that are making the money. They could be making alcohol. They could be making hemp fiber, which hemp fiber for building houses and for building materials is stronger than wood. Hemp paper lasts longer than the paper we make, and the paper we make from wood, in order to make the paper, they have to clean up the wood with all these polluting chemicals that are going into our rivers and our streams. And we could turn this country around and have an economic boom in this country if our farmers were allowed to grow hemp for recreational, for medical, for clothing, for so many uses. There's thousands of uses for marijuana, and our farmers could have crops. Now, marijuana also preserve, when you grow it, the roots grow deep, and it adds to the soil as opposed to drain the soil like a lot of the crops that we grow. We grow so much corn. The corn they're growing to make alcohol depletes the soil, and you get very little alcohol per acre. If we were growing hemp, we get at the least, depending on the process that they use, the least you get is 500 gallons per acre of ethanol from an acre of hemp. And we're not getting those kind of prices from drilling oil. Oil is much more expensive to drill and much more expensive to refine, and it doesn't make sense. But because of a few big corporations and the World Bank, which is ravishing our economics, they've kept marijuana illegal, hemp illegal, and if we don't, as a people, start standing up and say we want repeal of a law that should have never been. When they made alcohol prohibition, they had to make a constitutional amendment to prohibit alcohol. There's never been a constitutional amendment for marijuana or hemp, which makes everything that they're doing. They knew after alcohol prohibition was deemed illegal and they had to repeal it, they knew that to try to make hemp illegal, they couldn't do it. So they started out with the first scam, we're going to make a tax stamp. But nobody could get the tax stamp. And then they said, okay, well, we're going to supply the tax stamp. And they made the tax stamp so expensive that for the farmer to grow hemp, it was more expensive to pay the tax than the money he was making on the hemp. So it's all been a scam. It's all been a lie. Everything the government has told you about marijuana has been a lie. And unless you people start standing up, we're going to just keep seeing our prisons packed with more and more people, especially now that they've created 13 million foreclosures, which have put 13 million people out homeless on the street. When people are homeless, they're going to start arresting them. Well, you can't sleep here, you can't sleep there. How come you're in the car living with kids? And they're going to start taking children away from parents because they're economically they can't provide for them, and they're going to more and more people are going to get on welfare, and then welfare is going to say, well, you can only be on for a certain length of time, and it's going to get really bad in this country unless you, the people out there in America, wake up and start demanding change. And everybody in America should start talking up for the homeless people. Right now, 13 million families have been made homeless. That's on top of the millions of homeless people we already had. And the middle class is now being wiped out. Real soon, it's going to be the upper middle class. Pretty soon, it's going to be only the mega rich, and all the rest of you people out there are going to be slaves. They're going to start herding you. Oh, you don't have a place to live? Go over here. And then over here is going to say, well, you can't stay here. Go over here. And then they're going to say, well, you can't stay here. And then pretty soon they're going to go, oh, we have this nice camp that all you people we're going to let you stay in. And then pretty soon the camps are going to have barbed wire fences and gates that you can't leave. And then after a while they're going to say, it's too expensive supporting all these people in the camps. So that's when the ovens and the crematoriums and the gas chambers start. We've seen it before. Wake up, America. It's happening right here. And we're under attack by the World Bank. And if you don't start doing something, and we all better act locally, it's the local politicians, you got to hold their feet to the fire. Because if you don't hold their feet to the fire, the people in Washington, they have sold us out. from the president. It don't matter whether you vote for Obama or you vote for Romney. But Obama and Romney are both being dictated to by our Federal Reserve. Our Federal Reserve works directly for the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. So we have a foreign power calling the shots in America, telling the politicians what to do, and the American people are the ones that are suffering for it. So unless you wake up and start demanding change and start really, I mean, don't stop calling the politicians. Call them, email them. Don't stop. And say, we are not voting for you. If you vote for Obama, you're voting for the World Bank. If you vote for Romney, you're voting for the World Bank. The only people that I see that are even saying anything that's telling the truth is Ron Paul, and Ron Paul is still not quite there. He's pretty good, and he's better than any of the other politicians we have. But myself, Rod Class is running as a write-in vote, and Rod Class is the only politician right now that's running on Restore the Republic. We are not a democracy. Don't listen to these politicians when they keep saying democracy, democracy, democracy. A democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. You know, 51% of this country can make the other 49% criminals and illegal. They can say, well, 51%, which is the ruling class, because they've created so many felonies that most of the people that would vote against these people can't vote. If you're a convicted felon, they take your vote away. So they've convicted more and more people in America and made them felons. So now only the ruling class gets to vote. It's time for you people out there to wake up. If you don't take a stand for all those poor people, all those homeless people, all those people being busted for drugs, you are going to lose whatever you have. You think you have it good now because you're upper middle class? Well, there is no middle class anymore, so upper middle class has now become the middle class. And they've let you have a little bit of money because you've sucked up to the system and you've played along with the game and you've allowed and not rocked the boat, but you're next. If you don't speak up now, you're going to lose it too. So I think all you people out there, if you have no choice but to speak up. If you don't speak up, your children are going to be slaves. You're already sheep being herded around wherever they want to herd you. And our country's in trouble, people. If you don't act, I've been fighting, but I'm one person. Rod Class has been fighting. Constitution Man has been fighting. But I'm 66 years old. I can't keep fighting much longer. Rod Class is old. Constitution Man is old. He's a Vietnam veteran. He's fallen apart. There's not, unless some of you people out there start taking up the gauntlet and start fighting them in court and fighting these politicians, the republic that our founding fathers fought for, and that every veteran who's fought in this country, who's sworn an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, you're betraying all those people if you don't speak up. As an American, it's your obligation, it's your duty to stand up for your country. So I'm ranting and I'm trying to get through to you people, and I'm saying the same thing over and over, and I'm hoping that I wake you up. I'm having trouble. I got an hour to fill here, and I don't have Paula to take up the slack for me. And I'm actually I think I'm gonna cut this short because I don't know what else to say except stand up, people, and vote for and demand your politicians to change, demand your courts to uphold the Constitution, demand that we have cameras in the courts. If we don't have cameras in the courts, then there's no way to prove that a judge acts illegal. Because if you try to get the transcripts are never going to be what was actually said in court. I've gotten transcripts. Many of my friends have gotten transcripts. The transcripts always leave stuff out, and they say, oh, well, the person typing missed it if you really try to point it out. But they didn't miss it. They edited it. And that's not justice. That's not what the Founding Fathers fought for. That's not what you waved the flag for on the 4th of July. I say stop waving the flags and call your politicians. Demand the courts start acting according to the Constitution. Right now, we have courts that are totally corporations. All these courts are incorporated. What is a corporation for? A corporation is to make money. It's not for justice. It's not to protect your rights. It's to pick your pockets. Yet you all go into court. I didn't believe it when I was in Marbletown tonight. All those people there, all acting like sheep, all afraid, willing to go before the judge and accept anything that the judge says. And instead of saying, why are there so many police out here giving tickets? Why are they pulling us over for this nonsense? I didn't put my seatbelt on. How are we free in America when they can dictate what you do for medical? You can't choose your own. If you wanted to use marijuana for a medicine, they say no. If you wanted to use herbal medicine, they've made most of the really good herbal medicines that you used to be able to get in the health food store that our grandparents and our parents could get easily. They've made them illegal. The pharmaceutical companies have controlled our politicians, and the only thing that they allow you is that you go into their medical system. And their medical system is made, if you're an older person and you've worked all your life and you have a house and you've managed to put a little bit away, they make sure with the medical system that they're going to drain all the money that you've made all your life when you get sick. And they're not going to cure you. They don't have any cures. They're just going to test this and test that and test this and radiate you and give you chemotherapy and speed your death up. And then they're going to give such a big bill that you're not leaving anything for your children or your grandchildren. And that is how they are economically destroying our country. It's a big scam that has coming down from the World Bank. When they did the foreclosures, the banks all said, oh, we're going to go bankrupt and the stock market's going to crash. We should have let them crash. Who would have lost the money? All those guys on Wall Street who have yachts and have houses in the Bahamas and a house here and a house there. We should have let them go belly up. But instead, our politicians said, oh, we will bail them out. And what did they bail them out with? They bailed them out with the wealth of our country. All the money that we've put into our treasury, they gave to the banks. First they gave $16 trillion. Then they gave, without telling the people, another $16 trillion. So they gave $32 trillion to bail out the bankers. Now, when they bailed out the bankers, they bought what was called toxic assets. Now, what were toxic assets? Those were all the mortgages that people owed money on. So our federal government bought those mortgages, not for 10 cents on the dollar, but 100 cents on the dollar. They paid every bit of those mortgages off. Now, they paid and they bought all those toxic assets, which is all those mortgages that from the people who got repossessed. Now, the banks, even though they got $32 trillion, still went and foreclosed on 13 million homes. That the federal government paid off those debts, but the banks still repossessed them. So the banks have committed fraud on 13 million foreclosures. But you're not going to hear that anyplace else but on public access. You're not going to hear that on mainstream media. You're not going to get the truth anymore because the World Bank controls our media. That's why another reason all you people out there should be supporting birds of a feather who are trying to do a radio station that's going to give you the truth. But you should put up that thing on Birds of a Feather, who to write, if you can put that up there. Okay, good. We want you to support Birds of a Feather. We want a radio station here that's going to give people the truth. And it's going to, in case of an emergency, if all of a sudden the satellite went down, all this technology that we have, your cable TV is going to be out. If we had a hurricane and you needed to know stuff, the only place you're going to be able to turn is radio. And right now, we have 5 Christian radio stations, which I'm not against four Christian radio stations, which I'm not against Christian radio. But Christian radio should not dominate. It should not be the only radio that we can listen to. Birds of a Feather would put out information that you're not getting from Christian radio. And I think that all you people out there should be supporting Birds of a Feather. And we all have to stand. If we don't stand together, we are all going to fall separately. That's one of the reasons why when we go to court, we keep asking people, come to court. If 100 people showed up in court and said, we support what these people are saying, the judges would have to rule a little different. And if we win on our cases, you can cite our cases. And you can use our case and say, well, you let them off, and they cited this law, so I'm citing this law, and I expect to be let off. We are fighting not just for ourselves, but for all you people out there. And it's time for all you people out there. We cannot keep it up, keep fighting. They have busted me 3 times because I've been a marijuana activist, and they're trying to shut me up, and they'd like to put me in jail, but fortunately, I know enough law to be able to tie them up and keep them from doing it. But they're doing it to your children, and they don't know the law. So all you people out there should start. We've given you so much law, and we'll rerun a lot of the shows that we've done, giving you law. You should write this stuff down. When we give you websites where we've gotten a lot of this law, you should write it down and start studying it. Stop getting lawyers and do your own paperwork, because lawyers it's all a scam. Your lawyer is a member of the Bar Association. The judge is a member of the Bar Association. The prosecutor is a member of the Bar Association. The Bar Association is a private club, and they all make each other money. Your lawyer couldn't exist without the prosecutor and the judge. He'd be out on the street like everybody else. So he's not going to take on the system and fight for your best interests. And when a lawyer becomes a bar member, his first obligation is to the court. His second obligation is to the people. Now, when the prosecutor prosecutes you, he says the people of the state of New York, or the people of the state of Texas, or the people of the state of Maine, whatever state it is, are against you. Now, if your lawyer is obligated first to the court, second to the people, you're third. You're a low man on his list. He don't care if you get off, because whether you win or lose, he's still going to get paid. So it's time for you people to start learning the law, study the Constitution, study Supreme Court rulings, and do your own paperwork and demand. Don't take a plea. Fight them. When I dragged them out in Kingston for 2.5 years on my marijuana case. It started out felonies. Then after a while, it dropped it to misdemeanors. Then after a while, it was just take a plea to a violation, and we'll let you go. And we didn't do that, so then they dropped the plea, the violation, and they said, well, okay, we're going to make you plead to misdemeanors and a felony. And at that time, I didn't want my son to have a felony, so I pled. But I still tied them up for 2.5 years. And then they busted us. Then they came in our door again without a warrant, illegally. and got a warrant 8 hours later from a judge saying knock and announce. How can they knock and announce when they've already been in and searched my house? They acted completely illegal. When we went to court in Socrates, we put in our paperwork. The prosecutor, again, didn't answer our paperwork. And we fought them, and then they dropped it from a felony to a misdemeanor, and we fought them. And then they said, well, just plead guilty to a joint and a violation. And we said no. And then the judge tried to do his scare thing, turning purple and yelling and saying, well, it's going to go to court, and we're going to go to trial with this. And so we said, okay. And 2 years went by, and we never heard from him again because we told the judge, you should recuse yourself because you signed a warrant after the fact, which is illegal. That judge acted illegal. He acted in a criminal manner to cover for the police. Now, they put me on $5,000 bail, and my son, because he'd never been arrested before, on $500 bail. But even though it went 2 years, and now that we've never heard from him again, they still will not give back the bail, which is illegal. Our courts are criminals, acting in a criminal manner right now. And as long as you people out there allow it to happen, it's just, they go this far and you allow it, then they go this far and you allow it, then they go this far and you allow it. Pretty soon, you have no rights. When you come into court, they say, pay your fine, we don't want to hear anything from you. And they're just going to keep picking your pockets. And in hard economic times like we are now, how many tickets can you afford? And after so many tickets, when they take your license and you can't get to work, can you afford, how do you make a living then? If you don't put a stop to it now, we're going to have more and more homeless in America, more and more people who are bankrupt, more and more people who are losing their houses, and it's all being done through the World Bank playing on the greed of our politicians and our judges and the police, who are being told by the politicians and allowed by the politicians to overstep their bounds, to overstep their authority, to violate the Constitution because they know they're being protected by the politicians, the prosecutors, and the judges. So all you people out there, I'm your last chance for you to do something. If you don't listen to me and take a stand, kiss your ass goodbye. Kiss your freedom goodbye. Kiss the republic that you waved the flag on the 4th of July about. Kiss it goodbye, people. Wake the fuck up. Now I've ranted and raved. I still don't know what to say. And I wish Paula was here because Paula takes up the slack. I got how many more minutes here? 7 more minutes, and I don't know what to say. I love you people out there. I love America. I love this country, and I want to see it preserved. I want to see real justice in this country. I want to see our courts uphold the Constitution. I want to see our politicians uphold the Constitution. And right now, none of them are doing that. They're all committing treason. And unless the American people stand up, and you got to stand up in mass, 1 or 2 people like me go into court, even though I might win and get off, eventually they are going to take me out. And I'm telling you people, after they take me out, I don't want to live in the world that you're going to be left with. So you people better wake up. It's just a matter of time before they take out the few people like me, and you people have nobody fighting for you. If you don't fight for yourselves, you deserve what you're going to get. But your children don't. So take a stand now. I don't know what else to say, but these guys are saying, keep talking, Joe, keep talking. You know what a hard thing this has been to do all this? Let me see what else I can rant about. Oh, let's go back to the boxes in Woodstock on the cars. That's one of my pet peeves. I really don't like these boxes on the back of the car that they can ride around and read your license plate and know who you are, who's in, and now they got a chip in your driver's license. So if you got 3 or 4 drivers, 3 or 4 licensed people in your car, when they go by in this box, not only do they know your license plate, but they know all the licensed drivers that are in your car. You know, I think Woodstock should really take a stand and be one of the first towns in this country to say, we refuse to have these boxes on the car. When they ride by your driveway, they can read every license plate in your driveway and know every person that you're visiting. The Founding Fathers never wanted our government to go that far. They never we were supposed to be free in our houses, in our possessions, in our property. We are no longer free in this country, and unless the American people take a stand, it's all lost. We have maybe a year or two to change it. If we don't change it in the next couple years, if the American people don't take a stand, more and more people are going to be bankrupt, more and more people are going to be homeless, and you people out there are the people that are going to be homeless, that are going to be bankrupt, and they're going to keep picking your pockets and keep giving you tickets, and all these commercial courts. This money that these courts are taking from you when they take tickets, it isn't going into fixing up the roads. It isn't going into making better schools. It isn't going into making better hospitals. It isn't going into anything that's benefiting the community. It's going into the pockets of politicians, judges, prosecutors. The police get their cut. The police are a corporation in our country. They're not there to protect the people anymore. They're there to make money. The courts are a corporation. It's there to make money. The politicians are the ones that are telling them, we need $100,000 this year for Woodstock. Therefore, we're going to give out more tickets so we can raise more money that you people are not going to see any benefit from. So this is Joe Barton thanking God that this hour is finally over, and I can say this is Joe Barton for Pot Talk TV saying good night, people, and next time I hope Paul is here to save my ass. Boy, I don't believe I did that.